Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Part 5 Vedas, the duty of a Brahmin. Having heard me for so long, all the Brahmins by birth must do something in their life to protect the Vedas. Vedo Rakshati Rakshata, says the Vedas, meaning that Vedas protect the protector. Daily he should do Brahma Yajnam. Brahma Yajnam is one of the 5 great yajnas. Here, Brahma means Vedas, like the eternal Naya Vilakku, the lamp burning forever. So that this mantra power may be with us, we have to do that. Whosoever is the Maharshi of that branch of the Veda to which born, we should do Tarpanam every day for him. Having done that, we should chant at the least one sentence or minimum 2 words of that Veda. If that is also not possible, the barest minimum is chanting of the Gayatri mantra. Gayatri is the essence of the Vedas. It is said that only after initiation to the Gayatri mantra, Vedas may be chanted. Gayatri mantra should be chanted Sahasra Avrutti, that is 1,000 times every day. Again, the minimum is at least 10 a day. Gayatri causes the mental equipoise known as Chitta Shuddhi, which is responsible for attitudinal balance and behavioral correctness. Its Devata is the sun. His day of Sunday happens to be a holiday. At least that day, we could get up at 4 in the morning and do a 1008 Gayatri mantra chanting. At a moderate estimate, it should not take more than 50 minutes. All Brahmins should learn at least Purusha Suktam, Sri Suktam and Rudram. What is said above are meant for those Brahmins in other professions and employed now. Since they cannot learn all that is contained in a branch of the Vedas, chanting Sahasra Avrutti is the minimum program. But when you do things despite difficulties, the merit is more. So, even now, if you start, in a few years, Adhyanam can be completed. Are not people working and earning MPhil and doctorate, say even after 50 or 60 years of age? If you have the will, you have the way. Having remained unaware of Vedas throughout one's life, there have been people who have done Adhyanam after crossing 40 years of age. Among the office bearers of our Veda Rakshana Trust, there are such people. So, sincerity of purpose and will are the important points. Whatever happens to those who are already old and employed, I will leave it to their personal decision. But when it comes to the next generation, I insist that they should be given some exposure to Veda Adhyayanam. Thus, if I myself give too much margin, that may be the cause for a lackadaisical approach. But I am afraid that if I am too rigid and give a draconian order, it may go by default. They should get their Upanayanam done by the time they are 8 years of age, and for some 8 years in the evening, they should be taught the important portions of the Vedas by way of special tuition. If done in a cooperative basis, the expenditure can be less. In addition, some poor children could also benefit. More than anything else, we have to energize the Veda Patshalas, which are barely surviving by funds and recruitment. This can only be done if the Veda Adhyapaks and Adhyayis are helped financially substantially. As I said earlier, a Brahmin should not become too used to comforts and luxuries. His is a life of sacrifices and perseverance. But in the modern world, when the tempting distractions are too many and varied, if at least some of them have to abide with Swadharma of Veda Adhyayana, Adhyapana, Karma Anushtana of Yagnas and daily, monthly and special occasions, samskaras, their creature comforts should be taken care of so that they may not have to worry about making ends meet. When everyone is running after money and the comforts of modern life, If we have to tell some people to adjure and abnegate all that, they are likely to renounce the Vedas themselves. We have to take care of them to the extent that they do not run away to other professions. That is what we are working on. Herein, Perival is talking about some money matters. It may please be noted that the talk is dated sometime in the late 1950s and early 60s. Due corrections to the value of the rupee may be applied in your minds to be able to relate to what must be the status today. I am giving it verbatim. Plans for protection of Vedas. In 1954, I was completing 60 years of age. Many of the devotees approached me with the proposal that my Shashti of the Purti should be celebrated in a big way. My response was this: I do not want any special celebration for my completion of 60 years of age. I do not want to get the dubious distinction for having been the Mata Adipati, during which time the Vedas have disappeared from the earth. If you people save me from this ignominy, that will be the best utsavam or celebration for me. Short of this, I do not deserve any celebration. After this is a trust by the name of Shashti Abda Purti Trust was created with the purpose of encouraging study of Veda Bhashyams. Veda Bhashyam is to give the meaning of Vedas and elaborate the implications. To understand the words of the Vedas must come only after Adhyanam has been done. At the time the trust was created, some Adhyanam was going on, but reading the Bhashyam was just not being done anywhere. The very system was going kaput. So we wanted to concentrate our efforts in trying to revive that practice. So then in 1957 in Kalavai, the devotees expressed a wish to celebrate the completion of 50 years since my ascension to the Pithadipati. At that time, we decided that we should take steps towards giving a thrust forward for Veda Adhyanam instead of limiting our concern to Veda Bhashyam only. We established the Kalavai Brindavana Trust. Kalavai is the place of Siddhi of my Guru and Paramaguru, where there is their Samadhi of Brindavanam located. Then was created Veda Dharma Shastra Paripalana Sabha for conducting periodic Veda Sammelans where qualified scholars of Veda could be given opportunities to display their expertise and young children could be given chances to pass promotional exams. Then in 1960s, Veda Rakshana Nidhi Trust came into being for conducting Veda Gurukula schools all over India and honor Vedic scholars. This trust does the job of coordinating all the efforts of the three organizations. In this was a proviso that as long as a student does Adhyanam, whether in schools as day scholar or in individual guru's house, that is, does Gurukula Vasa Adhyanam or in his own house under his father as the guru, we will conduct an examination once a year. To complete one branch of the Veda, it takes 8 years. Every year, the student has to appear in the exam and pass it. At the end, he will get the certificate. Depending on the level of progress, the certificate would endow a title as Padanta Swadhyai or Kramapati. Other than the title, we also provide cash assistance. From the day the boy is taken as a student, he and his guru are entitled to some monetary benefit. Based on the number of students, the teacher gets a monthly pay so that the student may not run away with only limited learning. The student gets the money only when he completes the Adhyanam. By this plan, the guru gets 100 to 150 rupees per student per year. With 10 students under him, he will get at least rupees 1500 annual. The student would be accumulating some 3 to 400 rupees every year. That at the end of 8 years, he will get a lump sum of 2 to 3,000 rupees. At the end of Adhyanam, there are students who further learn Kavyam and Shastram and develop proficiency in the Sanskrit language when he gets a title known as Salakshana Ganapadigal. When he gets additional Sambhavana of 1500 to 3000 rupees with a percentage going to the Guru. To do Samitadhanam and Bhikshadhanam is a brahmachari's dharma. Samitadhanam is to do a short version of Yagnam every day. Bhikshadhanam is to go with a begging bowl and collect food every day. Students get double Sambhavana for doing these two activities. The earlier mentioned study of Veda Bhashyam comes only after becoming a Salakshana Ganapadigal. This will take another 7 to 8 years. Thus, the whole process takes 8 years up to Kramapati, then another 4 years to become Salakshana Ganapadigal, and another 7 years for the study of Bhashyam. Even in the normal educational system, for studies up to MA or MSc, it takes 17 to 18 years from the first class. Similarly, this also takes 19 years, since after all, this is a universally more useful education for all those concerned as well as all those unconcerned. Actually, by the time a student becomes capable of usefully doing the study of Veda Bhashyam, he is close to the age of earning a livelihood. So we thought that if he is not to look for earning a livelihood and give his attention to further academics, we have to take care of his pecuniary benefits by giving him a stipend. So, in 7 years, conducting 13 exams, one every 6 months, we arranged to pay rupees 60 for first class, 40 and 30 for second and third classes, respectively. Then we also introduced some more benefits between each exam successively, with a little less for those who fail. The idea is to motivate them to persevere without giving up. At the end of this study of Veda Bhashyam, at the end of 18 years, the idea was not to leave him in the lurch only with the last year's Sambhavana. The Veda Vidya that he has earned should give him at least sustenance. So we give him at the end of study of Veda Bhashyam all that has accrued on his name and rupees 7,000 if he has obtained a first class and rupees 5,000 and 3,000 each to a second and third class respectively. We also honor them with a Bhashya Ratna or Bhashya Mani or Bhashyagna title respectively. Other than this, we have a Paramparya Niyamadhyayana Dittam. In this, wherever children are learning the Vedas from these respective fathers, for whatever reasons and such arrangement has been going on for generations, let us say, we wanted to encourage this. Whatever the compulsions, our only aim is the spread of Vedic Parampara. So, under this system, when the boy starts Adhyayana, we make a deposit of rupees 12,500 in the bank so that he gets a monthly stipend throughout his studentship. He is put through the same yearly exams and is entitled to all the benefits otherwise being given to the other students on passing the exams. Veda Bhashyam. It is enough to learn the Vedas without knowing or learning the meaning of the Vedas. We have said earlier that the sound of the mantras have the power beyond our capacity for understanding. With no idea of their meaning, chanting on a simple belief that it will do much good is Viryavatharam, meaning very powerful, as I have affirmed earlier. It does not mean, however, that I am against the idea of people learning the meaning of Vedas. If Adhyayanam took 7 to 8 years and Kavyas, Puranas, Shastras and Sanskrit took another 4 years, study of Veda Bhashyam is going to take another 7 or 8 years. To tie up a student for so long, denying the families of possible income is too much to ask for. That is why, if I insisted that Vedas can be protected only if learning of Vedas should mean understanding the meaning also, I was afraid that I may fall much short of my expectations. That is why, half say seriously and half heartedly, I was saying, no need for the meaning, sounds of the Vedas will do. The real requirement is that the majority could be those whose main job to protect the sounds of the Vedas. In addition, we must ensure that there are some at least who are knowledgeable and well versed in Veda Bhashyam too. So this area has also been specially taken care of. Vedas have very deep inner and subtle meaning. What is beyond the reach of the normal mind's understanding and comprehension when put into words need to be explained by people with uncluttered minds. The words of the Vedas have that sort of deeper significance requiring concentration, attentivity, and deliberation. That is why great thinkers have taken pains to write the bhashyams. Can we afford to let them go unread and thus go waste? In our houses and families, we conduct many functions. Birthdays, celebration with Ayushomam and Navagrah Homam, marriages, Shraddham, Ramnavami, Krishnashtami, Avani Autumn, and so on, when the Srauti is called to conduct the function. The Vadyar chants many mantras from the Vedas during those occasions, and some of us repeat them. Others don't even do that. We have not gone yet to the stage of total stoppage of all such programs. Neither are we enjoying their conduct because mostly it is all not understood. Generally, the tendency is to get over the Veda mantra portion quickly done away with and then give more attention to other formalities. The very fact that for each type of function there is an elaborately different mantra should indicate that their meaning also must be varied and different. Actually, if we get to know the meaning, we will become aware that these mantras have enormous relevance on very scientific basis. In addition, they have emotional appeal and social correctness and appropriateness too. Meaning of mantras thus give the person chanting them a sense of purposefulness in doing the karma. Actually, if anybody is just talking something, going on and on muttering meaninglessly, we call it Devasa Mantram. All the more reason that we should make these mantras understandable. How to do this? First, the Vadyar has to understand the meaning. Nowadays, many Srautis do not know themselves the meaning of the mantras. If a Karta or Yajamanan asks him as to what is the meaning of the mantra, many of the Vadyas do not know. So it is but natural that there is a general waning of interest all around. This is for the procedural and functional mantras, let alone deep philosophical thoughts and concepts. I believe that there is a general urge to know and understand the meaning of these mantras. Actually, one of the main reasons for waning of interest in Vedic activities is due to lack of understanding of the meaning of the mantras. So we are taking special efforts to see to it that those who take up this profession should be made capable of explaining the meaning of what they are chanting. The Arya Samajis tried to simplify the procedures and translate the mantras into the colloquial, but that had the effect of undermining the value of the Vedas. Niruktam is one of the 6 parts of the Vedas, Shadangam. In Niruktam, chanting the Vedas without understanding the meaning has been cursed. Great saints have written the Bhashyams so that the common folk could understand the message of the Vedas initially in the karmas and later as the interest intensifies in the logic of philosophical analysis. Madhavacharya has written the Bhashyam for the first 40 suktams of Rigveda. Once Kandaswami has also written the Rigveda Bhashyam. For Krishna Yajurvedam, there is the Bhashyam written by Patta Bhaskara. Shukla Yajus has the one written by Mahidara. In recent times, Dayananda Saraswati, Arvinda Ghosh, and following Arvinda Ghosh, Sri Kapali Shastri have written Veda Bhashyams. Then there are the Bhashyams written by Adi Shankara, Ramanujacharya, and Madhavacharya on the Prasthana Trayam, that is Brahma Suktam, Bhagavad Gita, and the 10 Upanishads. Among all these, foremost bhashyam is that done by Sri Sayanacharya, accepted even by foreign researchers as authoritative. He is the 14th century scholar known as Sri Vidyaranya Swamigal, who established the Vijayanagara Empire, rejuvenated the Adi Shankara Matams, and also wrote his commentary on Rig, Yajus, Sama, and Atharva Vedas. Since Yajus contained Krishna and Shukla Yajus, he has written Bhashyam on both. Thus, he has covered the 5 Vedas. Though others have also written Bhashyams before him, no one before him or after have covered all the Vedas. Thus, in addition, he has also authored many other works on Uttara and Purva Mimamsas. To think of the volume of his works and then the quality of it, and then relate to the fact that he was a political minister in the empire that he created, it is just awe-inspiring as to how much can be packed in one lifetime. It was Sayanacharya's Bhashyam which was much known and in use and quoted about. But there was a clear threat that it may disappear. Whosoever was learning the Vedas were proceeding to Adhyapana without ever learning the meaning. Those who were studying the Kavyas and Shastras were not even doing the Adhyayanam. This resulted in the likelihood of the total collapse of the whole edifice. That is the time the Shashtiabda Purti Trust came into existence. Initially, when the trust started conduct of exams, Vedabhashyam was only in book form. Those who had printed the books were worried as to how they were going to recover the capital invested in getting the books printed. After creation of the trust, since we catered for the stipend for those who taking up study of Bhashyam and made the books available to them free of charges, the long unsold books found a market for themselves, causing us to go for a reprint. It is all God's grace that there was a demand for those books even among those not directly involved in the profession of learning and teaching Veda. If we are conducting a marriage or Upanayanam or Simantam a few days before the day of the actual event, we should call the Veda Panditar and get briefed on the mantras being used in that function and its meaning with reference to the context, which may not be possible on the day of the function itself. This briefing will make the karma and the mantras so much more meaningful and satisfying. In the marriages conducted nowadays, there is no time. Whom to keep as the band, whether to have reception before the marriage or after the marriage, which Kalyana Mandapam, what should be the route of Mappale Arappu, should we arrange music concert or a dance program, and such questions take up all our time that we have no time whatsoever for the mantras and Vaidika Purohit. We want to make some positive changes here. If there are some people interested and have time, we wish to meet their needs for which some have got to be prepared. When we are spending a lot of money and calling all our friends and relatives, it is in the rightness of things to give due attention to this important aspect of the mantras and their meanings. It is said that the mantras are more effective when we understand the meaning. We have not reached the stage to completely renege on karmas, but still doing it half-heartedly. But if we now give attention to the meaning of the mantras, the actions will be that much more fruitful. We are not giving up for reasons of some fear, is it not so? Once we know that to do the karma without giving attention to the sense behind it is equally bad and as good as not doing, maybe that we will be motivated to give the mantras and its meaning the attention they deserve. Santokya Upanishad clearly says, Yadeva Vidyaya Karoti Tadeva Viryavatram Bhavanti. Sankotya, Santokya Upanishad and 1.1.10. That is to say that whosoever does the karma with understanding the mantras become that much more powerful. One man is the karta in the marriage ceremony, getting married or getting the punal thread. He or his father chants the mantras. What is everybody else doing? Others are participating by talking, eating, dancing, playing cards, and so on. That is not how it was meant to be. When very respectable Veda mantras are being chanted, they should be listened to. That will be some method of honoring the host and the Vedas. If you carefully listen to the meaning of the mantras, though you are not the Karta, it will still be good and useful. Aswamedha Yagam is done by one Yajamanan. Not everybody has the power or authority and wherewithal to be able to do that big yagyam. At any time, there will only be one king supreme enough in the whole world to be able to do that yagyam. But that one yagam is said to endow enormous amount of benefit. Are all those benefit meant only for that one man? Do you mean to say that when he does that yagam, there is no one other than him worthy at all in his whole world? Actually, Vedam is not meant to be partial to a few. The general common benefit for the widest range of people is always the purpose of the Vedas. If I install a light here, it will not only be useful to me, many can and do benefit in the process. Yes, Karta will reap major benefits, but others could also gain as much as the Karta. The way for this is clearly spelt out in the Vedas themselves. Other kings and attendants could get to know as to how to go about it, if nothing else. They could also give due attention to the mantras and get to know the meaning. If he does all this, he gets the benefit of having conducted an Ashwamedha Yaga. This is given in Ashwamedha Prakaranam. Exactly similarly, in whatever function, including even obsequies, if the participants follow the meaning of the mantras, they stand to benefit immensely. My duty. My duty in all this is to keep repeatedly reminding you all that it is your duty to protect the Vedas. Whether you listen to me or not, whether I have power to make you work or not, to endlessly keep on telling you, pestering you is my job. Acharya has created this matam for the purpose of propagating the Vedas. Whatever I may or may not be do otherwise, in whatever way I may dupe you all otherwise, if I do this job somewhat sincerely, my all other faults will be expiated for. If I fail in this, and if I do not do justice to this task of mine, I, it will be unpardonable. That is why I am repeatedly talking about Veda Rakshanam. I am not only telling you all about this very important need, but I'm also doing a lot of planning and executing those schemes. For this, I beg you for funds. If not begging, think of it as an order from me. Take it as a request or an order. Somehow the job has to be done. There is a poem which says, Vedam Odiya Vediyar Kor Malai, Needi Mannar Neriyanar Kor Malai, Madar Karpudai Mangayar Kor Malai, Madam Moondra Malai Ena Peyyume. It says that there will be 3 rains every month. One rain for the sake of Brahmins who chant the Vedas as required of them. One reign for the king who rules over the land without deviating from the path of justice, and one reign for the women folk who do not stray from being devoted and faithful to their husbands. Thus, there will be 3 reigns every month. In these 3 conditions, the rule of the governments being in the strict path of justice is not at all in my hands. Being a sannyasi, and that too apolitical in the other 2 areas as the Samyar of the Matam, I am thinking that I have a responsibility. If you ask me as to what could be my role in controlling the woman's behavior, it is only that since there are a lot of things going against Sri Dharma, it does become my duty to keep on pointing out as to what is going wrong. Till Balya Vivaham of marriage in childhood was there, the opportunity for men and women to go astray was rather limited. When already married, as you grew up and thought of the opposite sex, would mostly automatically bring before the mind's eye the image of that one already existing as a partner of life. But if that attraction towards the other sex occurs after a certain age, and if you are still unmarried, the chances of your going astray are more. Since the government already has enforced the Sharda Act, our hands are rather tight. But I can always ask you to go into this aspect in more detail and study ways and means of obviating the likelihood of young people going astray. So many acts are amended or changed. This act could also be amended, towards which I would like to influence the public opinion. Though I am still talking about this, looking at the co-education in colleges, further leading to equal employment to women in all sorts of professions, there does not seem to be any options for me whatsoever. For all the ills of the society, the Brahmins chant the Vedas faultlessly. The aberrations of the government and the behavior and faithfulness of the men and women of the populace will automatically become all right, I believe. It is in this firm belief that I am seriously doing my all towards Vedarakshanam. For this, you have to spare your children. For this, you have to give your financial help. Children of poor families to be able to do Adhyanam, the books, clothing, food, teachers' fees, and so on has to come from you. We have kept the level really low to enable more participation at rupees 1 per month per family. For this, you will be receiving an addition to the punyam you gain for helping out the Vedamata, Vibhuti Kumkumam, and Mantrakshadai of the Chandramauleshwara Puja every month. If you let us know your birth star, your name will be included on that day's puja when your star happens to be. The program has been named Nakshatra Kanikai. Mentioning the name of Tirupati Venkatachalapati, people sent chain letters when the instructions that if you copy this letter and send it to 10 other persons, you stand to gain so much, blah blah. And if you do not send, you will lose your thinking brain and blah blah. Many people obey because they are afraid of the Swami in Tirupati. Sometimes I even wonder as to whether I should resort to some such trick for creating funds for this job of Vedarakshanam. I am not asking for too much, but only 1 rupee a month per family. Whether you like it or not, think that I have levied this tax. For my small government, as big as a grain of mustard, this is the tax. For this, if you cut down a little bit on your expenditure on cinema or visit to the beach, it will be enough. Part of mine and your duty would be fulfilled. Conclusion. There is no end to the greatness of the Vedas. There is no other document in this world to match it in logic, reason, justice, sense, morality, or any other social an individual method of assessment or measurement. Let me complete this series by talking about how the greatness of Vedas is apparent in this worldly life itself. Among all places, Kashi or Varanasi is considered as the greatest place on earth. When any other place is praised, it is claimed that it is as good as Kashi. That is indicative of the fact that Kashi is great. In South India, there is a place known as Dakshina Kashi. In UP Hills, there is a place known as Uttara Kashi. Vruddhachalam is Vruddha Kashi. In Tirunelveli district, there is a Ten Kashi. Kumbakonam is supposed to be slightly superior to Kashi. There is a shlokam about Kumbakonam. Anya kshetre krutam papam, punya kshetre vinashyati. Punyakshetre kritam papam Varanasyam vinashyati. Varanasyam kritam papam Kumbakone vinashyati. Kumbakone kritam papam Kumbakone vinashyati. This is not a license to do papam or sin, but to prove the point of logic that when you say that A is as good as or better than B, it automatically means that B's greatness is taken for granted. Thus, Kashi is already known to be great. Similarly, Ganga is already known to be a great river. On the same lines, when any book or shastra or scripture is praised, it is said to be as good as the Vedas. Ramayanam is famous. Whether in Sanskrit or Tamil or Hindi or Telugu, among all epics, literature, poems and dramas, Ramayanam holds its own place. While talking of its greatness, it is said to be Vedam. Veda prachitasit Sakshat Ramayanatmana, meaning by Pracheta's son Valmiki, Vedas took rebirth as Ramayanam. Mahabharatam is considered to be the fifth Veda as Panchamo Veda. After the four Vedas, Nammalvar was known as Sadagopan and Maran. His Tiruvalmuri is highly praised by Vaishnavas as Vedam, as it is said that Vedam Tamil Seidan Maran Sadagopan. In Tamil too, the famous Tirukural of Tiruvalluvar is considered as Tamil Vedam. Tiruvalluvar wrote the Tirukural. He took it to the Kadai Sangam, the last of the august collection of expert scholars in Tamil spanning thousands of years in history. For approval by the Sangam, the Association of Poets, there was a Sangha Palagai. It was a floating flat board. If approved, the board will float. If not approved, the board will drop you and your work as a ton of bricks in the water. That was the only waterboarding that we Tamilians were aware of. It was torture indeed if your work was not approved and let slip into the water. Nowadays, they are talking of some other waterboarding in US of A as a measure for torture of the prisoners. Normally, these learns are wary of any newcomers. They will have many examinations and hurdles lined up for them. By doing so, the not so bright can be kept under reins. You cannot get away with substandard material. In one way, such actions on their part is good, but such attitude should not be carried to ridiculous extents too. Tiruvalluvar took his palm leaf manuscript there. If the Sangapalagai accommodates, then only Tirukural can be accepted, said the poets. His work was kept on the floating platform. It accepted the Tirukural and dropped the whole lot of poets in water. That is the Indian waterboarding. At that time, they all realized the worth of Tirukural and were all praised for the same. One of those poets says, Aryamum Sendamizhu Maarayn Thidaninadu சீரிய தொன்றை செப்பிரிதால் ஆரியம் வேதம் உடைத்து தமிழ் திருவள்ளுவனார் ஓது குரட்பாவுடைத்து. The poem means that if somebody asks as to whether Sanskrit is great or Tamil is great, our answer till date would have been that Sanskrit is great because it has the Vedas in it. But from today, They are at par because if Sanskrit is great because of its having the Vedas, Tamil is equally great since it has the Kural. That means one, Kural is as good as the Vedas. 2. Vedam gives greatness to its language Sanskrit. 3. Similarly, Kural gives greatness to Tamil. Tevaram and Tiruvasagam are considered as Tamil Vedam by Saivites. These are catches within our religion. Christians brought the Bible and called it as Satya Vedam. Thus, undoubtedly, Vedas stand apart at the zenith, at the pinnacle. This greatest legacy from our ancestors from time immemorial that has given birth to the culture that is flowing in every drop of our being as the life force cannot be permitted to become extinct due to our careless attitude. There is no other more important duty than this to whosoever is born in this part of the earth. Veda Shabdam has to become audible. Meanings of Veda mantras have to become known to all. Vedic practices have to be revived. If this happens in this one country, it is enough. For a sick man, if his heart is strong enough, all other parts will mend. Like that, all people will be happy, all nations will benefit. That is the prayer of the Vedas too. Loka samastha sukhino bhavantu, Vayyagam tuyar tirkave. Om Shri Mahaperiva Sharanam.